Hi, Vibin Soulpreneurs. How's everybody doing? Happy Tuesday. I am sharing tonight's video with you because probably in the last couple of months, I'm gonna guess maybe a couple hundred, maybe 200 new women have joined this community. And a lot of you have no idea about me or my backstory. And so I thought I'd be a little bit more personal in this video and share with you the inside scoop of actually what was going on a few years ago that even got me here in the first place, and how this ties into the concept of subconscious patterns from childhood and how we can be replaying things or manifesting again and again similar situations that result in a similar feeling that actually became implanted in childhood. And I have quite an extreme example of this. One might say it's even humorous. At times it gets so ridiculous, and I'll share a bit more about that in a minute. But it's good in that it really illuminates how these subconscious patterns that aren't serving us can keep showing up, but also empower us that there's ways that we can go about dissolving them. I call it breaking the glass ceiling on something that we didn't even realize was there, right? Thus it's called subconscious, not conscious. Welcome, Renee. So happy to have you here. So we are going to dive right into it. I know a lot of ladies are going to catch the replay. Who else is here? Drop a comment. I'd love to see who you are. My screen isn't populating who everybody is. Drop a comment, drop an emoji. I'd love to see. Okay, so I titled this that I've had a brain injury, a divorce, an addiction, and I've even been catfished. What does catfish even mean? That's when someone actually steals someone else's identity, pretends to be them, typically in the online world. So that all happened to me this one crazy wild summer. It's the summer that I turned 29. So that was a fair bit of time ago. I'm now 34 and a half. I'll be turning 35 this summer, but that summer of turning 39, it was like everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And what did that include? I was in the midst of going through a divorce. I was in the midst of realizing and kind of coming to terms. No one knew it, but I suspected inside that I had an addiction to alcohol. I wasn't 100% sure, but I just suspected I didn't have a normal relationship. Well, I don't know if anyone's is normal, but I suspected I was starting to show signs of a pattern that my mom and my father, my stepfather, my grandpa, everyone in my bloodline has. And that was really scary because now I was a single woman and I have this thing I'm battling. And on top of all of that, what happened on my 29th birthday, for those of you who don't know, again, I'm not sure if how many of you know my backstory, but what happened on my 29th birthday is I got, as I often did back then, I got blackout drunk and I fell down my stairs and I lost consciousness. I fractured my skull. I didn't wake up until the next day, and I ended up in the hospital and all the things, and it turned out that I literally cracked my skull, damaged brain tissue, so much so that I got a traumatic brain injury and I got a nausea, which means I don't have the ability to smell. And for those of you who know, I have my skincare line, BODYCHERISH. I've actually never ever smelled any of the products because I just don't have that sense. Okay, but hang tight. We're going to bookmark that because in a roundabout way, I'm going to explain how our pain is always for a purpose and why I needed everything I just shared, why I needed it to happen, just like you have pain in your life or something not working or challenging or hard or difficult, or even that makes you sad, but how there is a roundabout way to see that it's there for your highest good, it's serving you, it's growing you. That contrast is there for a reason. And in fact, it might actually be for your very purpose. So welcome, Raquel. So happy to have you here. Welcome, Rebecca. So happy to have you here as well. Drop a comment if any of you ladies have experienced pain or hardship or contrast, but suspect that it was there, or maybe it is there right now for your highest good, for something that's going to be blooming out of it in the future that couldn't have come without that experience, right? We dive hardcore into this, illuminating subconscious patterns, how to dissolve them and elevate your life. If any of you are watching this from that program, you know by module 7, we are really unraveling the layers there so that it can be dissolved. But in any case, welcome, Jody. So happy to have you. So, okay, there we have it. So now I explained about the brain injury, but then what about the catfishing? When did the catfishing come in that summer? Well, it happened probably within weeks of that brain injury, and it actually makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. One part of my brain that got damaged in the trauma was impacting my judgment, my insight. And so there was massive red signs with who I was communicating with online, but it's like I wasn't willing to face it, and I had already developed feelings for this person. So once you develop feelings and then you're in this vulnerable state of going through the divorce and all these problems, and then throw in the brain injury, suddenly your judgment becomes even more fogged. And it got so bad, the catfishing, that I ended up on a plane traveling from my province to their province, if that is where they live. I have no idea, and they never were there in the city I went to meet them. And yeah, it's like straight from a movie. It was crazy. And that's the beauty of rock bottom, because that was my rock bottom. It's like, where can you go from there? Was the divorce enough of a rock bottom? No. Was realizing I had a problem with alcohol enough of a rock bottom? I guess it wasn't. Was losing my smell? Was the brain injury enough of a rock bottom? Nope. But I got to learn lessons the hard way. And I know a lot of you probably can relate. Maybe you learn lessons the hard way as well. So when you can't go anywhere from up at that moment of waking up in another city, knowing you're there by yourself. I had friends there, so I wasn't completely alone. I stayed with friends, but it was a true rock bottom, very painful experience of my life, where it hurt to, I'm going to say, even to breathe, the amount of pain I was in, the amount of disconnect I was in from where I was supposed to be and what I was meant to be doing. And this is how I believe all of our souls have a plan, have a higher destiny in store for each one of us. And there's going to be situations literally designed to take place to shift things, to wobble things, to almost tear the rug out from under our feet, to wake us the fuck up to why we're here and give us the opportunity to course correct, to get in alignment. A lot of women will feel a lot of changes take place in their life around the age of 29, 30, going to the early 30s, because Saturn returns into their birth natal chart at that time. And that influences, things will really get dismantled, and you'll have an opportunity to do these pivots in your life. A lot of women might have an injury or a divorce or something like a breakup, or someone cheated on them, but it's all serving your highest good so that you can get aligned to the path you're going. And so how does this all translate pain to purpose? Well, if you know me, I'm radically obsessed with anything to do with female empowerment, loving ourselves, radical self-love, healing, holistic healing, all these fabulous things. But I wouldn't have gone down a path of even learning about them, exploring them, if it wasn't for what I was going through. I wouldn't have been drawn to the energy healing world, Reiki, crystal healing, all those awesome things that are a big part of my life and my business, if it wasn't for the very fact that my brain injury caused me to lose my smell. The loss of my smell is the very thing that caused me to have a massive increase in energy sensitivity. So it's like one sense had to make up for the other sense that was no longer there, and that was my energetic sensitivity. So if I wasn't empathic before, I sure as shit was after the injury, highly sensitive, all of those things. But you see how, like, okay, the tragedy happened for me, because going down that path, I became a crystal healer and a Reiki practitioner. I fell in love with healthy practices to feel better, because as I was working through healing my addiction, all I wanted to do is to feel better through eating better and exercising and healthy natural skincare, and that's what really led me to start making my own skincare. And then I thought, well, I love gemstones so much in crystal healing, I'm going to make gemstone essences and infuse my skincare, create my own skincare line with the gemstone essences. But all of those passions for health, holistic healing, crystal energy, all of that was literally because of the trying time of the unhealthy habits I was at one phase in my life succumbed to, as well as the brain injury. So you see that, and at the time I would have never guessed in a million of years it was happening for me, because let's get real, it sucked. That summer was so hard, but look what all came from that. Some of you saw my post the other day that in the last 2 years my coaching practice grossed $200,000 the first 2 years of it being launched. That reality would not have even been a possibility if I had continued down the path I was on, married to the wrong person, in an unhealthy relationship, both drinking our faces off every weekend because we had no other source of fulfillment to feel good, right? That was that Band-Aid remedy. And a lot of people have something that's a Band-Aid remedy to ease that ache when they know deep down inside they're not actually on the path that is their highest potential in life, right? I don't know if any of you ladies can relate to that. Welcome, Denise. Welcome, Sunshine. Happy to have you ladies here. Oh, Sunshine shares you had a traumatic brain injury and lost your smell and taste, and you're preparing to also be a healer. Yes, no surprise about that. Something happens bad, but what is it doing? People don't change unless something gets so uncomfortable they want to change, right? And I'm so passionate about transformation, positive transformation, and supporting women find that, achieve that, bust subconscious blocks, start attracting what they want and no longer repeating patterns of what they don't want, because of my very experience of, for a long time, attracting what I didn't want and what I didn't want again and again and again. And here's the thing, now we're going to dive deep. When do these subconscious patterns actually get embedded? They're not actually in adult life. They're in our formative years. They're actually throughout the phases of our chakra development. So believe it or not, our root chakra is actually being developed when we're in utero in our mom. And then it's still being developed in the infancy ages. And then as we're growing up and getting older, our other energy centers, chakras, are continuing to grow into their fullest expression. And I know some of you might not be familiar with the chakras. Bear with me with that. But Cole's Notes version is there's key things that can happen that can imprint us on literally an energetic level when we're young. And we, without conscious awareness, can be repeating that pattern in our life. But when we become aware of that pattern, we then actually have the power to, from the inside out, dissolve it, heal it through a variety of methods, so that we no longer get a mirror of that pattern showed to us in the outer world, because we attract what we're feeling and being on the inside. So if you look at the pattern I was in, I was neglecting myself. I wasn't treating myself with radical love and kindness. I was making unhealthy decisions. I wasn't prioritizing how I felt, and I was searching for outside things to make me feel better. An upgraded home, knew this, knew that. None of those things were the source of true fulfillment until I tapped into the inside to find it. So a lot of my subconscious imprint was embedded because of the neglect I felt in childhood. So I'll just touch on it real quick. I had an abusive childhood, and my parents were alcoholics. My mom moved away when I was 11. I lived with my dad till I was 15. He kicked me out of my house multiple times, and then the police removed me at 15. And then I was with another family for the rest of high school, supporting myself, working at Boston Pizza, washing dishes, moved out into my first apartment at 17, and then worked as a waitress for 2 years, saved up all my waitress money, paid my bills, paid my little apartment bills, and put myself through my first year of college, then got into university and all the things, got the corporate job, rushed to become a successful woman to escape all of that stuff from when I was younger. But here's the thing, I didn't escape the subconscious pattern, which was neglect, which was I was treated with neglect. So I thought, oh, I'm going to treat myself well, but yet I was making actions, decisions, and behaviors that was still mimicking that neglect. The male relationships in my life, all the way up until I was 29 when I started working on this, they were replicating not being cared of the way I wanted to. But that was, again, that inside job. That was the mirror on the outside. So we dive much, much deeper into this in Module 7 of Elevate Your Life, of how to really illuminate, well, what was that pattern and what can we do to dissolve it so that it no longer is so pronounced. So it could be something like being shy. It doesn't have to be neglect. It could be something like not being confident to express yourself, to speak up, right? What happened in childhood or in your teen years? What happened that made you feel like you had to contract, right? And the beautiful thing is when you start treating yourself from the inside out with the opposite of how that imprint was. So in my case, neglect. When I started treating myself with literally the key antonym, the opposite word, cherish. Cherish, that's love, that's treasure, that's putting myself in this high regard position. When I, not on the outside, but when I on the inside started doing that, guess what happened? My life changed so freaking fast. You have no idea. Well, you probably do, because where I am now is completely different from where I used to be. It changed so fast because when I changed that internal feeling, the energy on the inside, my outer world started to reflect it. So this talks of what this means is I became an energetic match to what it is I was desiring in everything, in relationship, in career, in money, in health, in fitness, in all of those things. And the universe had to then give me, through the law of attraction, what I was now emanating from the inside out. So there's a lot of ways that we can actually become energetic matches to what it is we want. There isn't just one simple trick, but I have to admit I did condense it to 5 simple changes that if you implement literally the day you watch the webinar next week, that if you implement, you're going to already start having those vibrational shifts and start attracting right back into reality the things in your heart, in your soul you want, and no longer repeating those patterns that are no longer serving you, whatever those patterns might be. So I'm just dropping a seed about that. I'll do a link in the comments if anyone is interested in signing up. That's going to be live. It's going to be Thursday night. It's going to be a party, and it's going to be sharing 5 simple changes to literally elevate your life and become more of an energetic match to what your deepest desires and wildest dreams are. And from experience of where things were when I was younger, where things were when I was in my 20s, to now being in union with my soulmate, the love of my life, being treated a way that I dreamt of. But guess what? He showed up when I changed the internal dialogue, when I changed my frequency, my vibration. When I was growing up poor, I dreamt of one day making $25 an hour. Well, $25 an hour is ridiculous now. That's nowhere near my income that I've grown it to now. But again, working on subconscious blocks, working on the energy, working on becoming a vibrational match to a prosperous, abundant living, right? So what's so cool about this, ladies, is we all have the power to do that inner work. We all are conscious manifestors of our own lives. And if we can literally get clear on what it is we want and what it is we don't want, we can start making subtle, simple shifts and changes to align our energy more and more to that dream life, that dream partner, that dream career. So that's a bit of my backstory. I wanted to share that with you and let you know that things haven't always, especially if you're new to the community, things haven't always been hunky-dory, roses and rainbows. There was definitely a trying time, and that's what inspired me to get into this line of work in the first place, because I know what it feels like to be there. And I know what it feels like to go through it and then get to the other side. And maybe there is no other side. We're always growing, we're always evolving, and it's a beautiful journey. And if you can reach to think that maybe your soul had a plan all along and that there was necessary contrast for you, not to you, to grow you from pain to purpose and align you on the path that's going to be more deeply fulfilling, then each day is going to feel better, knowing like it's not just happening to you. It's happening for you if you can reach to that thought. But in any case, I hope you ladies have a beautiful night. You can watch out for that link I'll share in the comments, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.